Hi, welcome back to another Ed of Art Lockdown Edition video. Today I am sitting in my kitchen where it's beautifully sunny and warm, and we're going to step away from reality a little bit today, and we're going to do some really abstract, really intuitive, really freestyle drawing. So you're going to need your VAPD or something to draw on, a black pen or fine liner or something similar, and something to color your work with. Now you can use watercolor pencils or regular colored pencils. You can use watercolor paint or any kind of paint that you've got at home. And for all of those people who say, I can't draw, this video is for you. Let's get started. I've got my black fine liner. This one is waterproof, which is important if you're using watercolor. I've got just my plain VAPD, and I'm using these Derwent Inktense pencils. These are basically watercolor pencils, but they're really highly pigmented and they're really, really cool for blending. But any kind of pencils, watercolor, or any kind of paint will do. I've also got some brushes and some water that's going to help me a little bit later. For now, I'm going to put all these other things aside, and I'm just going to be working with my plain sheet of paper and my black texta or pen. Now you can work portrait, you can work landscape, it's up to you. We're going to start with some really loose line work. So you're just going to let your pen flow across the surface of your page in any way it likes. You might like to do this with your eyes closed, you might like to look out the window. It's really not about trying to predict what happens, it's just letting your pen flow. You can overlap your lines as much or as little as you like, and just stop when you feel like you've had enough. Once you've finished with your line work, you might want to rotate your drawing, maybe even turn it upside down. This is abstract art, so you can do whatever you like. Now you can do this next step with regular colouring in pencils, with watercolour pencils or paint or regular acrylic paint. I'm using these Derwent Inktense pencils. As I said earlier, they're basically watercolour pencils. So I'm going to need some paint brushes to help me blend as well. The first thing that you want to do is choose a colour that you want to start with and a section of your composition. I'm going to start with this big circular shape in the middle of my composition because it stands out quite a lot. And I'm going to choose a nice bright teal green. And I'm basically just going to colour it in. At this stage, I'm going to follow the contour of that shape, and I'm actually ignoring all of those internal lines, just colouring straight over the top of them. Now, if you're using regular coloured pencils that aren't going to be blended with water, remember that you need to follow the contour of your shape and pay attention to the direction that your pencil is moving in so that we don't see too many strokes of your pencil. Now that that green shape is coloured in, I need to choose another colour for this bottom section of my composition. Now remember, you can't really make any mistakes here, it's completely up to you, but you do want to remember your colour wheel. So something that goes with green is yellow. I'm going to choose a nice bright yellow and I'm going to colour in that lower section of my composition, this time going around some of those shapes that sort of stick out into it. The decisions you make about the colours that you use and which lines you go over the top of and which shapes you go around are completely up to you, and there's no such thing as a wrong decision here. It's just about being intuitive and seeing what happens. I'm going to choose some other shapes to colour in yellow as well. While there's no wrong decisions here, we do want to remember we're trying to create some balance and harmony in our work. So stop at the end of each shape, see how you feel before moving on. Now, because these are watercolor pencils, it's time to add some water. I'm deliberately using quite a large brush for this work. This is supposed to be quite loose and quite abstract. I'm normally somebody that's quite strict with edges and being neat, so I deliberately chose a large brush because it's going to force me to go outside the lines a little bit and embrace the mistakes, which is all part of the fun. Now, unless you're using proper watercolor paper, you don't want to add too much water. You really just want to blend your pigments and create that painted surface. And we just want to embrace the variation in our tones as well. We don't need anything to be really neat and tidy for this work. So go ahead and blend your watercolor pencil or add watercolor paint or add acrylic paint wherever you like. Now, because this is supposed to be intuitive and abstract, it is important to pause every so often and take stock of what you're doing. So now that my green and my yellow are blended, I have chosen a pink pencil and I'm going to start filling in that large section at the top of my composition. I want to be careful about remembering my colour wheel and which colours go well together, and I think this pink is going to go quite nicely with both the yellow and the green. If you are using watercolour pencils like I am, you might find that when you go over a wet section of your page, your pigment really stands out nice and dark. That can be something that you can use in order to make certain sections of your work even more interesting. Now that you've got most of your work coloured in, you can see it's starting to come together. So from this point, it's just a matter of choosing more colours and filling in the rest of those shapes. Remember to use tone to make your work interesting, so leave some areas light and make others dark. You can also layer your colours and blend them together. Remember, there are no wrong decisions you can make here. It's about being intuitive, responding to what you've already done, and just enjoying the process. So I'm pretty happy with that, but I'm going to go back over some areas and make them really dark and stand out, just to create a little bit more interest in this work. Once everything is coloured in and dry, you might like to grab your fine liner from earlier and just go back over some of your lines and make them stand out even more as well. So there it is, a drawing for people who can't draw. One of the nicest things about this activity is the fact that it's completely unpredictable. There's no way of knowing what it's going to look like in the end, so you can just enjoy the process. I really would love to see what you all come up with at home. Please make sure you like and subscribe and look out for new content from Ed of Art coming real soon.